Morning. Yeah, so today I'm not going to be reading scripture. Today I'm going to do a little freestyle. I've been sitting here for about half an hour and the Lord's not telling me to reference anything directly in scripture today, which is unusual. But, I guess something's been on my mind from other YouTubers and stories about people going through various adversities as believers, this concept of the wilderness season. And so I will give my account because I'm in one right now. And, the reason is because it's stressful. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Wilderness seasons are all through scripture. When the Jews, during Passover, when they left the captivity of the Egyptians, they were set free by the Lord. And then they proceeded to spend 40 years in the wilderness before they entered their promised land. When Jesus started his ministry after he went to see John the Baptist, it says that the Spirit of God descended upon him in the form of a dove and rested on him. And immediately after that, Jesus was led into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights where he fasted. And at the very end of that wilderness season, he was tested, right? He was spiritually fed by his education and getting into the Word, the Old Testament back then, and he was being sustained by it. But when your flesh is fasting for 40 days, you're pretty weak. You're pretty, you're I don't know if anybody's fasted before, but it's not easy. You're constantly fighting the temptations of the flesh just to eat. It really resolves okay, who's in control of you? Your body and spirit. Is your spirit in control or is it your body? And I think sometimes fasting is an opportunity to put the body's needs in check. It doesn't supersede the needs of the spirit. So, at the end of those 40 days when Jesus was in the wilderness, he was tempted by the devil himself 3 times. And Jesus resisted the devil and he fled. Then after that, that's when the miracles started to happen. That's when Jesus really began his ministry. So we as believers are being conformed in his likeness. And so we have to share in his sufferings. Nobody is going to coast through as a believer. This is sort of like boot camp as believers. We are being separated from the world. We have a different standard. We are not of this place. And it's all fine and good when you have a job and everything's being taken care of. It's easy to preach on these things. But when they're taken away, things get a little hairy. It's a real gut check. So I'll tell you my story real quick. I had a good job, had a great career in the pharmaceutical industry. I was getting paid crazy money. I am highly educated. Had a wife and 3 kids. And things went sideways. Even though I believe when I was 15, I got caught up with the desires of the flesh and desires of the world. And that's where I put all my focus. If I only had more money, if I only had more degrees, if I only had more this, more that, bigger house, nicer car, I kept on striving for things that I thought would bring me satisfaction. And it worked for a while. But then, when COVID hit, things kind of went sideways. Things started going sideways back in 2012, but it was more like a dam was holding back this adversity. And it started with a trickle, a leak in the dam, where a little bit of adversity was coming through. And every time the leak would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then COVID hit. And then in terms of my relationship with my wife, the dam burst almost exactly 3 years ago. I left that house. I didn't want to. My family was most important to me, more important than my job, more important than everything. And I had to walk away from it all. I ended up getting an apartment about 10 minutes away from where they presently live. Early on, we were talking about, well, what are we going to do with the kids? We didn't really put them on a schedule. We didn't see a lawyer because neither of us could afford it at the time. I just decided to, I'll do whatever I can to support them, hoping that all the while my wife would change her mind and be willing to rebuild, right? That's what we did for the last 3 years. But the longer I stayed separated, the more and more that my relationship with my wife dissolved. It was the Lord's intention for us to separate. It was the Lord's intention for me to go into this wilderness season. Shortly after I separated, I lost my job. But it is what it is. It's unfortunate. And so I ended up getting a job about halfway through the separation. I was hired at a startup company for about a year. And I was getting paid more money than I ever got paid before. And then because it's a startup and it's highly risky, after a year, I lost it. I lost the job. And so it's been a year since I've been unemployed. My retirement has completely been brought to zero due to my expenses, school loans and all this stuff. That's the downside to having 3 degrees. You have to pay for 3 degrees. And, you know, I've actually been brought to the place where I am abandoning my career in science. It was an idol, and now it's like in this wilderness season, I'm realizing, like, you have to put the idols down. It's like the 40 days and 40 nights. You know, it was preparing Jesus for that critical moment when he was weakest. What are you going to do? You're going to be led by the flesh, or you're going to be led by the Spirit? I'm actually being brought through that season in this modern age right now. You know, I used to think that it was because the Lord was angry with me, that, and he used to drive me crazy, like, what am I not doing right? And it has nothing to do with that. He brings us through these wilderness seasons because he's preparing us for something greater. You know, the Lord can change reality that quick. He can. So I'm committed during this time of wilderness where everything has been taken from me, everything in every way. Yet, I feel more close to the Lord now and more peace than I've ever felt before in my life, which is what I really, really needed. Yeah, when I had all the money and all the provisions and all the stuff and all the security, I never really had the peace. Now that everything's been stripped away, I have the peace. And yeah, there's been plenty of times in the past 3 years I've been white knuckling it, holding on for dear life, crying in my sleep a lot, but like I'm so dependent on the Lord now in a way that I've never been before in my entire life. This is all by design. This is exactly where he wanted me to arrive. I know there's a lot of you out there that are going through a similar season. You know, the details of my story and your story are likely very different, but a wilderness season is a wilderness season. It is reminiscent of Jesus fasting for 40 days, which is not an easy task. I've done it for a week. That's tough. 40 days? I can't imagine. And he did it. And it was to prepare him for his ministry. I'm not saying that I'm being prepared for a ministry. I don't know if this ministry is going anywhere because I have like 7 subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You don't have to like what I'm saying. Just subscribe, because I'm pouring my heart out on these videos, trying to teach everything I've been taught with the hope that it's going to help somebody in a difficult situation like I am. So if you can please subscribe, do so. You know, it'll help the YouTube algorithm push the messages out there. If I don't get enough subscribers or enough people liking and subscribing at a fast enough rate, all my videos are going to stall. I'm not doing this for monetary compensation. I'm not doing that. I'm not even close to that, and that's not why I'm doing it. The reason I'm making these videos, honestly, things keep trending the way they are. I mean, who knows? I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and with me being separated from my kids, some of my kids my youngest kid is a little too young for this kind of heavy stuff, life stuff, and I can't really tell him about it yet. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, at least I have my YouTube videos that he can watch, or they can watch when they're facing their adversities in life. That's why I'm making these videos. Once it goes on the internet, it's forever, right? I'm doing this for my kids. And if it helps anybody else out there, good. So yes, please like and subscribe. You know, I'm fortunate, and then I'm thankful that I've been brought into this wilderness season. I know it might seem crazy to think that way, but it's true. Like I said, the greatest gift I've been given so far in my faith walk is this feeling of peace. When everything's been taken away from me, I keep turning my heart to the Lord, get my nose in the scripture, and starting to understand my ways are not his ways, and his ways are better, so I better start being obedient, you know, even as a believer. I know my sins are paid for, but I have to be obedient. And there's comfort and peace that I can't explain in abiding in the Lord. Anyway, that's a short one today. Sorry, I don't mean to get too personal, but look, I've been listening to a lot of these messages and watching a lot of these YouTubers. There's a lot of believers in the wilderness season. This isn't punishment. It's preparation for something greater. It's refining, you know. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fiery furnace by Nebuchadnezzar. But there was a 4th man in the fire with them. And when they came out of the fire, they were not burned, right? That's us in the wilderness season. We're going through the same thing. We are going to be the stage upon which the Lord will reveal his glory to the world. That's what we're going through. So take heart, be encouraged. This ain't over. This ain't over by a long shot. Okay, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. I have a feeling the more we devote ourselves to being conformed to his likeness every day and being refined every day and not fighting him with it, the sooner this wilderness season will be over. Okay, so devote yourselves to that. Die to yourselves and die to your old ways and conform yourselves to whatever he desires. And then hopefully we can bear good fruit and bring him glory. All right, you guys have a good day. Be encouraged. Be well. See ya.